chessboard. It's a simple thing. 64 squares, light and dark. What is it about this game? Why do we spend so many hours staring at this board? What are we looking for? Is it just the thrill of victory? Or are we looking for ourselves? Maybe we see the chessboard as a canvas to express to the world who we really are. Maybe you're pragmatic. Maybe you're just here to have some fun. Or maybe you're currently using recreational drugs. Whatever your reasons are for playing this game, one thing is clear. When you reach the highest levels of competition, everyone wants to know something about who you are and has something to say about it. Maybe they criticize where you came from. Maybe they criticize where you went. Or maybe they insist on comparing you to the man in whose shadow you toil. Well, regardless, at some point, you just have to play some chess. Hi, and welcome back to Chess for Sleep, your home for chess and chill on the internet, YouTube, and Twitch. So, Alireza has fallen a little bit out of favor amongst the fans in recent months. A couple of reasons for that. For one, Alireza didn't play much in 2023. Basically played the bare minimum he needed to maintain his rating. And most perceive that as, a tactical move to try and qualify for the candidates tournament. Alireza also participated in a tournament that was essentially designed to give him enough rating points to qualify for the tournament, which he did in the end. The rules were changed to not allow that kind of thing to happen in the future, but they basically grandfathered Alireza's tournament in. So, understandable that people weren't too crazy about that. At the same time, I really expect Alireza to have a strong tournament. And the reason for that is mainly he's a spectacular chess player. And, he didn't have a great showing in the first candidates he participated in. But, to say, well, he didn't play very much chess in 2023, what kind of form he'll be in. We still seen him play, we've been seeing him play in online events and he's been having good performances. I expect Alireza to place probably in the top 3 is my prediction. Fabiano, I would say is gonna win it, but I definitely could see Alireza finishing in the top 3. So today we're going to take a look at Alireza's game against Sergey Karjakin back in 2020 in the FIDE Chess.com World Nations Cup. I'm a Caro-Kann player. The Caro-Kann's near and dear to my heart. Alireza also has utilized the Caro-Kann frequently in his young career, and that's what we're going to see today. So, e4 from Karjakin, we get the Caro-Kann, so c6. d4, almost always played by white, but it's not the only move. You can go for a King's Indian setup here, King's Indian attack, so you might get d3. But usually it's d4, that's what we see here. d5, that's what c6 was setting up, this d5 move. And now this is kind of where white chooses what white's going to go for. You can get going into the classical, knight c3. The fantasy variation is some wild stuff, also known as the Maroczy variation. Here, the main line, especially nowadays, is essentially it's e5, the advanced variation. And if any variation was close to refuting the Caro-Kann, it would be this variation. The bishop of f5 line we're going to see from Alireza. Players have looked, because of black having some issues in lines, In bishop f5, we've seen players going for c5 here and essentially playing a French defense, an advanced French down a tempo. But today we are going to see bishop f5 from Alireza. So knight f3, standard stuff, e6. Again, the whole point of the Caro-Kann is to get this bishop outside the pawn chain. In that way, the Caro-Kann is basically an improved French. Do keep in mind, though, Magnus famously said that the Caro-Kann, basically, for him, responses to e4, only the Sicilian and then e4, e5, those are the top tier, and everything else is kind of lower tier. So in his mind, the Caro-Kann is not on the same level as the Sicilian and e4, e5. But Alireza employs it here. Again, this bishop's outside the pawn chain. That's good. So bishop e2 from Karjakin. Now knight d7. Obviously, we're not developing here. And often in these advanced Caro-Kann setups, we often see the black knights developing to e7 and d7, which looks kind of weird and kind of passive, but that is, the point of the Caro-Kann is black is compact. Black is not going to have, is trying to avoid having long-term weaknesses. It's not about quick development and getting an attack on white right off the bat. So here, Karjakin actually goes with kind of an unusual move, which is knight bd2 here. And basically, by going for this, standard move is castles. And it's a little bit more dangerous for black to play c5 in that line. Black can still do it, but here, with knight bd2, it's a really strong move for black to go ahead and get this in. And now, if black can get c5 in with no repercussions, black is basically equalizing in the Caro-Kann. Again, we basically just have an improved French advance now with this bishop outside the pawn chain. So if black can just play c5 without, negative repercussions, black is essentially equalizing. And so Alireza goes for this right away. We get c5, and black is totally fine out of the opening. So d takes c5 here. If you go c3 here, now you're really playing a bad French advance for white, and that's not, that's a bad opening result for white. If black is getting everything they get out of a French defense except a French advance, except this bishop's outside the pawn chain, that's just a great opening result for white. So we don't get this French advance move. Takes here, and so black, of course, has to spend time recapturing this pawn. So knight ec6 here from Alireza, and the idea here, pressurizing here, and the knight will come, this knight will come to d7, and will be, of course we have to recapture this pawn, but we'll also be threatening this pawn. So knight b3, defending temporarily. Again, white is up a pawn briefly, but clearly, there's going to be no really good way to defend this pawn long term for white. So black's going to get its pawn back here. So bishop g4, it's a frequent idea in the Caro-Kann that you actually trade this bishop pretty much right away. Here we can see that taking here and then this pawn is potentially falling. Karjakin castles, which is the standard move here, and Alireza actually doesn't take, and players generally don't take here. And the reason is, let's see what happens if black takes here, with the idea that, well, we've won this pawn and we'll eventually capture this pawn. This position, white's going to have a nice initiative here because we simply back the bishop up, preserving the bishop. And now white's threatening f4, f5, and then ripping open this f file with the king in the middle. So if we just develop this knight and hit here, f4, we retreat the knight, and this is still okay for black, and black can play this way, but white's happy to have f4 in. Now you can go ahead and defend this pawn, so black isn't straight away winning this pawn. And now black basically has to play g6 and make sure this isn't coming. If you play bishop e7 here, f5 strong now. Because you can castle, but here, and bishop g4, and the knight can come and also threaten, and this is now getting tough for black to hold. White does have an edge now, so going back, Alireza doesn't take here and then take. He simply brings the knight, and we are going to capture one of these pawns at some point now. So knight e1, offering this exchange of bishops. And here, again, you might be saying, well, isn't that kind of passive? Well, yeah, and this happens. Karjakin, we see this trade here. So, what happens if we take here again, and maybe one day we're winning this pawn? A couple ways for white to play here. Bishop f4 is one way. Again, let's say we try and win this. Again, white can hold this pawn now. It's, if you just try and immediately go for it. Knight's coming back in. Let's just say we just straight go for this. c4 for white. D takes c. And we're not only defending this, but black is getting in trouble with the lack of development. So that wouldn't be good. Bottom line, black is going to get a pawn back eventually, and white isn't trying to stop that. What's white's plan to actually be better now? What's Karjakin's plan to actually win this? Well, the computer says this is a slight edge for black already. This really isn't a great line for white against the Caro. And yeah, after simply taking on c5, which is what Alireza does, where's white's advantage? And there simply is none. Again, we got in the c5 move earlier. Again, black has done that with no negative repercussions. White's not quick enough with an attack. So this is equal. That's all we have now is an equal position. It's no minor piece imbalance. It's two knights and the dark square bishops. The rooks are all kind of sitting at home. This pawn is, there's space here. It's not, white's not getting an attack quickly enough. So this position is just equal. So we get this trade, and now knight d3. Bishop has to back up, which we see. Queen g4. This is a little awkward for black now. Of course we can't castle, because this gives up the exchange. I have to play here. Takes. So we still have to defend the g-pawn, so Alireza goes king f8. And again, this might look a little bit awkward, but again, there's no danger here for white or for black. How does white actually generate an attack quickly? There is no quick attack. You might wonder about a quick f4 here. Can we just come down at this king sitting here? Well, the thing is, the knight not only hits this pawn, but threatening to come here and help just stop these pawns. So if you defend, you could play the knight here, but just h5, kicking the queen. If the queen tries to stay around, you just play here. And now there's no way, you can play here, but simply knight h4, we're defending that. Let's say you try and cut off the protection, you just bring this knight back, and this knight is just, this knight is keeping any white attack from actually getting through. So instead we see queen h5 here. keep an eye on this pawn. Again, maybe playing f4 in the right scenario, but it's certainly not now. So now king g8, getting out of this f file. This rook isn't happy, but this signals that this rook likely eventually wants to come. We're gonna push the pawns to kick the queen, and this rook's gonna come up the board vertically on the h file, perhaps. So bishop e3 now, taking the square away from the knight, where the knight could hit c2 and eventually come into f5. Rook c8, targeting the c pawn. Of course, we're on the semi-open file. Rook d1, ad1. Yeah, eyeing up this queen. The queen moves. Queen f5. Of course, we're hitting here. Karjakin plays a3 to defend. And now queen a4, simply attacking here. And Karjakin defends that as well. So, middle game analysis time. Again, this position is, the computer says, is essentially dead equal. It's giving between 0.1, 0.2 for black, but it's basically equal. Yeah, this queen is sitting over here, but it's not doing much. This queen, we've weakened white's queen side a little bit by forcing these pawns forward. This rook doesn't look happy, but black doesn't have any other bad pieces. This knight is always pressurizing here. This bishop's harmonious with the pawn structure. But you do have this rook here, so that's why, all said and done, we're about equal here. So, a5 for black. Again, not too much to do, but gaining some more space. Maybe eventually, if white allows it, crashing through on the queen side, minority attack, loosening up these three pawns, maybe trying to win a pawn on the queen side. So bishop g5 here. The computer here actually wanted f4. Again, now the knight's not immediately coming to f5 to plug this up. We could have gotten g6, stopping this, hitting the queen. Queen f3 coming back. h5, just putting all the pawns on light squares. If white tries to tear into this, d4 is a strong move here. And if takes, knight takes, right? So, this knight is threatening to, we have to be careful because this check is coming. We're simply kicking the queen on the next move. So, could have been some interesting tactics there. Here, simply trading is good for black. And by good, I mean slight edge for black. That's black's good bishop. But after h6, kicking the queen, the queen comes back, king h7, and at least you're getting this rook into the game. Instead, we see h6 right away, encouraging the bishop to capture here, and taking back with the knight, and this knight is able to come to f5 again, where this knight would be happy. And we get that. Knight takes e7. Again, there's really no threat of a white attack here. We do get h3 from Karjakin here. Again, maybe you could see this supporting g4, but how are these pieces getting here quickly? Again, this knight is around. This queen can come over. Maybe here. This move just isn't threatening to black at this point. Again, this knight really wanted to be on f5. It gets there. Rook e1. These rooks are centralized, but what are they really doing here? You can't even pivot the queen. You couldn't pivot hitting the queen because the pawn is of course sitting here, and the queen. However, this rook can pivot here on the fourth rank. So if anyone has a future attack here, these pieces potentially are coming over, and they can get to the king side and orchestrate an attack, maybe in conjunction again with winning tempi on the queen, this rook getting into the game, this knight being over here. We see that these pieces might not look totally coordinated, but they can all get to this king relatively quickly. So it's something to watch out for in this position. So g3 from white. Again, there's no looming attack here. If we had seen g4, this is very bad because the queen is trapped. So if g3 is not scaring black. If anything, we see that after this queen gets hit by these pawn thrusts, white has moved the pawns in front of its king. White is quickly becoming clearly the side that has to be more concerned about a kingside attack. So queen c6, bringing the queen back. Here we see that d4 might be a move eventually, with the knight coming in, the rook coming into the 7th rank. So queen f3. Again, this queen was doing nothing over here. It was just a target for tempo gain. So bringing the queen back. Also stopping d4 for the time being, because you're at least getting these queens traded off, and white would be happy with a queen trade at this point, because it means black isn't getting an attack. So h5 from black, and we see again maybe g5 coming in, and maybe these pieces are all coming in to attack white. Knight f4, it's a move, it looks like it's designed to discourage, black's attack here, but this knight is also simply, has the potential to be kicked. It's threatening, it's attacking here, so we can't go immediately. If we went immediately here, the knight's winning this pawn, and it's just going to sit here. We can eventually play g5, bring the knight back. But simply g6 to defend the pawn, and again, if this queen leaves, we could be seeing g5 in the future. So, rook d2, adding defense to the 7th rank. If d4 were to come, this rook on the 7th rank could be a major problem, so some prophylaxis against that. We see that white is in defense mode. You may remember Karjakin earned the nickname Minister of Defense. I'm not sure if that was before the World Championship with Magnus or during, but Karjakin generally knows how to defend his king. This is a good prophylaxis move. b5, yeah. Alireza, keep in mind, in this game, he was 16 years old. Something that should be mentioned, he was 16 in 2020. But this is a nice, patient move, not worried about his rook. Of course, if b3, we're just taking. But yeah, just gaining more space on the queen side. A very patient move. Knight d3, keeping this knight on a central post, but and aware that he was going to be, there was going to be a tempo gain here at some point, but also now it's simply, you're not attacking this pawn anymore, so black can simply go g5. That's what Alireza goes for. Queen backs up, again preparing for g4 here, which is gonna again push this queen back anyway. The engine now is giving this as 1.5 for black, and again it's simply because we have g4 coming, and this is very dangerous for white. these pieces are not well coordinated to defend this attack with the knight and the rooks. Eventually the queen could be opened up on the stag, and all white is not in good shape here to defend. Queen h2, just, getting the king and queen off this file, but it's still very dangerous for white. King e7, keeping the, instead of going to g7 to protect this king, king e7, keeping the g file open. Queen h1, this looks very passive. Here, the computer is actually asking for d4 and inviting this trade. But here, after c takes d4 and knight takes d4, of course this fork is looming and deadly. You have to stop that. And different ways to go here. Knight f5, h4. If you go here, knight d4 again, and it's going to be tough for white to defend this. The computer's not seeing an immediate breakthrough here. Knight c2 is an option. Anyway, looking very sketchy for white, but at least the queens would have been off the board. So, why trade the queens at this point? You wouldn't, and it's not what Alireza goes for. He goes for rook d8. Maybe eventually still wanting to play d4 at the right time, but probably not wanting to get the queens traded. Again, just holding down the fort. These rooks are defending each other now, but it's still looking dangerous for white. So now, giving up this square, sitting here, again, inching closer to this king. Queen g2, and white is just sitting now. White is simply sitting. g4 can, of course, come at any moment. The computer says it's good here, but Alireza is still patient. He goes queen c4, and again, now we could see d4 without a trade of queens. But again, Alireza sees that white is simply sitting around. There's no reason to rush this position if you're Alireza. Again, shuffling from Karjakin, just waiting for the hammer to fall. Now, if these pieces are going to be lined up on the same file, just bring the rook on the file. Very logical move. So Karjakin gets out of that again. And rook g6. So finally, this rook comes to a new square. And the idea here is simply now this rook is defended on this square. And why is that important? You're about to see. So was there anything else for white to do here? First of all, what about getting off this simply? Not on the same file as the rook. That would have been a decent move, but at any time, black can still go for this. And, if you close this up, rook g8, and this is just so clumsy for white. Black can coordinate these pieces in such a way that the black can get an attack if white, again, doesn't very carefully defend here. Say rook c1. Again, just all these pieces are just looming. Queen f1, rook c8. And again, maybe this is holding for white, but there's going to be, black, again, this knight can reroute. It's just going to be difficult for white to hold this, but it's still probably holdable for white. But coming all the way back, Karjakin, again, was careful not to keep these pieces on the same file as the rook when the rook was staying on. But it seems, on the g file, but it seems like Karjakin has just decided he was going to shuffle these pieces, the king and the queen, and just sit. And it seems that Karjakin missed Alireza's very strong move here. And that's knight h4. Knight h4, a nice move. So if takes, obviously, the queen's gone. So I think Karjakin, though, always believed that he could simply sit here and be fine. That's what he played, queen h1. So now, again, this g4 move has been looming. Now g4 from Alireza. And here, only one move. Believe it or not, it's only one move for white that gives white a chance to hold this position. And it's not easy to spot at all. The move b3 is completely necessary. Black can take either of these pawns here. G takes h4, pawn takes, and king h2. And this attack, while very, very scary, the rooks are now defending each other, but here, it's there that the queen could have traded off. Here, threatening here, but this is holding for white now, which is, again, is almost hard to believe because, this looks really deadly. This looks deadly, but king f1, and the king is actually totally safe. Totally safe now. Take on b3. Rook c1, and you can't forget that this king is now one move away from getting demolished on f7. Rook here, queen's coming in. So it's that counterplay on black's king that saves the day for white. But Karjakin did not find b3, which again was a very difficult move to find in the first place. We simply get g takes h4. We get g takes h4. And this is just immediately over now. Because g takes h3. And Karjakin, I'm not sure, didn't see the stream. All I know is he it makes sense that he didn't immediately see the problem here. Because, again, there's always the threat of white getting counterplay on black's king. So if there's no immediate mate here, is white okay? Well, there is an immediate blow. It's the final blow of the game. And here, Alireza plays h2. And with that, Karjakin resigned because there's nothing, this can't be stopped. So obviously, we wonder, why can't this queen simply take? And the problem, of course, we see why this queen needed to be deflected with b3. It's because this queen and the rook have been sitting on the fourth rank for much of the middle game. And now, after rook takes, there is not a square for this queen. And of course, not taking the pawn, you're just getting rook g1. So, how about that game, huh? Sorry. How about that game? Alireza, just a very nice, really, if you play the Caro-Kann, if you listen to Levy, Gotham Chess, and you've gone all in on the Caro-Kann, this really is a textbook game, equalizing with c5, remaining compact and solid, just improving the position. Karjakin could have held this. He goes too passive. Thought he was just totally safe. But right here, he had an idea. Alireza had an idea. And yeah, Karjakin was, after g4, just did not see that this knight, there was a major threat here. And h2. Really nice game from Alireza. So, just a little taste of what Alireza could do as a 16-year-old. And again, I really think that we're going to see, I think, again, the negative criticism towards him, I think he's probably heard some of it. I think he's ready to to remind people that there's a reason that he was considered the successor to Carlsen in terms of who's going to next be the dominant player in chess. We've got a lot of exciting young players in the world of chess right now, including Prague, who will be in the tournament, of course, as well. And I just previewed him in my previous video. But yeah, I'm expecting big things from Alireza in this tournament. I really do like the guy, despite everything, and I like to see a good showing from him. So that's about it. Really appreciate you guys watching. If you like the video, really appreciate a like or subscribe. Yeah, it helps grow the channel, and it's much appreciated. Much appreciated. Please leave a comment if you have any thoughts. I'm again trying out a new video format. That introduction was kind of new, so if you liked it, let me know as well. So again, until next time, be well. I hope things are going well in your life, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.